most pressing issue facing LGBTQ plus people today is how to channel our vulnerability in the face of volatile changes all around us. We can't choose not to be vulnerable, but we can choose to embrace vulnerability.
First and foremost, I think we must continue to show up to work as our authentic selves. Second, we have to continue to try to uplift the younger generation through mentorship, guidance, any type of support, and of course, opportunities.
LGBTQIA plus people deserve more than representation and formal legal equality. We deserve to be wholly and authentically ourselves, and we all deserve to live free from incarceration, exploitation, abuse, and violence. None of us are free until all of us are free.
There are people that are using our community, the LGBTQ plus community, to erode democratic institutions and move this country towards a Christian theocracy. But our community will not go back into the closet. We are here, we are out, we are queer, and we are here for each other. I stand with thousands of other people in this community to fight for freedom, for our community, to fight for justice, and to fight for democracy.
I think protecting the health and safety of incarcerated trans people is the most pressing LGBT issue of our time. Trans people behind bars are sexually assaulted at nearly 10 times the rate of the general prison population. This daily gender-based violence that they experience is nothing short of torture.
Being a leader in the LGBTQ plus legal community means never forgetting your responsibility and your representation. A leader is responsible for performing work at the highest level, setting an example to colleagues, and maintaining integrity in all actions.
We'll only ever be as prosperous and healthy as those who are most vulnerable and powerless among us. The LGBTQ migrants, refugees, incarcerated. We must never forget that our community was born, by definition, in the fight for the marginalized, the feared, and the persecuted. And we have to keep remembering, always, that the fight is far from over.
For most of my career, there wasn't anyone that I knew of that dressed or looked like me. And my hope is that that won't be a question in the future. Given the constant attacks on and attempted erasure of trans people generally, I think it's vitally important to be visible to the extent that you have the privilege and safety of doing so.
Some days it feels like my mere existence and my refusal to hide or diminish any part of my intersectional identity is a radical act. And until the day comes when that's no longer the case, I'll continue to seek out opportunities to move us all one step closer to equality.
Being a leader in the LGBTQ plus community is about being a change maker and standing up for all folks who might find themselves in oppressing circumstances. LGBTQ plus leaders do not wait for change, but rather they inspire the community and provide motivation to continue the fight for the rights of not just themselves, but for all those affected by prejudice and discrimination.
We've been playing from a position of weakness because we've been leaving some of our cards off the table, and we've been funding the largest and most powerful of our organizations and leaving those who are the most affected behind and underfunded. But being a leader today means finding a way to fight the fight that we're in while maintaining our values and maintaining our goals.
Leaders in the legal community must support these efforts with every tool we have. No action is too small or less worthy, whether it's representing the trans community in impact litigation to combat states' anti-trans laws, or participating in initiatives to change policies in our own workplaces to make them more inclusive and supportive of underrepresented minorities.
Authenticity is a commitment to radical self-honesty and holding space for others to do the same. At a time where living so openly can sometimes feel unsafe, it is authenticity that creates the psychological safety to embrace the transformative power of living your truth.
We need to ground our work in feminist, anti-racist, anti-ableist, and anti-colonial values and ally with other movements for liberation to work for justice for all people.
The most pressing issue facing the legal community is the demand that we flatten ourselves in service of productivity. Being a lawyer is a part of self and an important part of self, but the economic demands of the profession would monopolize that part of self and reduce us from whole people into units of time. We can't heal our profession unless we can first heal ourselves.
Over the last decade, we've made some amazing strides when it comes to issues like marriage equality and employment discrimination. These milestones would not have been possible without the hard work of many activists and advocates working together to advance just causes. But they also would not be possible without reaching out across the aisle to the other side. For me, being true to myself means not being embarrassed or ashamed of being a voice for moderation and reconciliation.
A rising tide lifts all boats. And so for me, being a queer and trans attorney leader means that I'm using my law license to nourish solidarity within and beyond the LGBTQ+ community. So for example, within the community, I provide free and low-cost name and gender marker change legal work. I believe that by working in solidarity with other marginalized groups, we stand the best chance at making lasting change. And I think that's true in Arkansas and all over the world.
I believe that we move towards equity by unapologetically being ourselves. For me, I recognize that I have educational privilege. I also am cis and femme appearing, and all of those things affords me a certain level of treatment and access that a lot of my siblings aren't fortunate enough to get. So I think the question becomes, how do I leverage that so that people are coming alongside with me?
I think it's the fundamental responsibility of those of us, in particular those of us privileged enough to live in places where we don't have to consistently fear for our safety, to insist upon a safer and fairer America for all of the people in the LGBTQ community.
Moving forward toward better LGBTQ+ equity and inclusion involves advocating for legal protections, promoting education and awareness, and supporting policies that advance LGBTQ+ rights. Increasing representation and fostering allyship are also essential components of this process. By adopting a multifaceted approach and addressing intersecting identities, we can work towards a more equitable and inclusive society for LGBTQ+ individuals.
My name is Brandon Cox, and I am a shareholder in the trial department at Greenberg Trard. I am also the co-chair of the firm's LGBTQ+ affinity group. In this role, I get to work with some amazing organizations and individuals who dedicate countless time and resources to protecting the LGBTQ+ community and ensuring that we can all show up and live as our most authentic selves. Thank you again for this incredible acknowledgement.
Being a leader in the LGBT community means living an out and proud life and inspiring others to do the same, being passionate and courageous in everything you do, being actively involved in the community and civic engagement, and being relentless in zealously advocating for the LGBT community.
There have been dramatic gains for the LGBTQ+ community and their rights in the United States. But now, many of these rights are at risk. We must remain vigilant in protecting LGBTQ+ people from increased hostility. No one can take away the power of authenticity from any person. And as members of our community reveal their authentic self, we can celebrate a future of acceptance, inclusivity, and justice.